people I speak to,
Go
is that
ahead.
you can just wing it, right? Like don't have to think, no script, nothing. You can just go at it.
Thomas, welcome to the Greek Audio Geek. Guys, I am really excited today. We have got Thomas, and I am sure that he is a recognized face to everybody who's tuning into this channel. Thomas, you're like one of the OGs, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. I think I was the that makes me feel old now.
In fact, what we'll do is in post production, I'll put like some gray hair on you and maybe an old beard and all that.
Yeah.
But guys, today we're doing something that I get excited about. We've got his Galleon amp here. You've seen me post some of my creative photography on it. And I want to talk to Thomas about how he went from an audiophile to wanting to build and sell amps. That is not a common journey. And of course, it's going to be just an open-ended conversation. The other thing I will say is my video is still coming on this. I apologize, guys. I'm backed up. As you know, I typically, for me, by the time I start to make a video to I hit the go live on YouTube, is typically almost 40 to 50 hours in work. So it's simply a matter of trying to balance a life with getting these videos out in a timely manner. And I will say this, let me just cut to the chase on his Galleon amp. It's fantastic. I love it. You guys know I'm a big guy for 45, 283s, 300Bs, but I will tell you that most people can't live within those power confines. And for anybody anywhere near the price point or that's needing a little bit more power, I love this amp. It's got the flexibility on the feedback and all this. I'll go more into that later and on the video. But Thomas, that was a very long-winded welcome. Tell me a little bit about your journey. And here's one question I got to ask you. You always had the best stories, and you always had the best
Mhm.
names for your friends on those stories. Were they true?
They're all 100% true. 100%. And that's the good thing about having a lot of audiophile friends and experience, right? And I guess to answer your question, everybody's curious why did I go from YouTuber to somebody who manufactures products? If you think about it, Jay did the same thing, Ron did the same thing. Like he's coming out with a speaker too,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there's other too. So I think it's because when you start a YouTube channel, you build a network, and then that's when you start realizing, you know what? Maybe I can build something that is to my taste. Because a lot of things that we review, we respect it, we understand it, but it's not all necessarily your taste. And given the fact that I speak multiple language and I got to know a lot of people because of YouTube, I figured, you know what? Why don't I give it a try? When that opportunity arose, that's when I met Doge, and I just simply asked him, "Hey, can you build me an app?" And I like to voice it this way, and the rest was history. So,
Well, you know, it's
and
interesting because in fact, I think right now, I think I literally have 11 amps
mhm,
and I see a lot of stuff come and go. I look at gear now differently than I used to. For instance, where I'm hooking up and taking off so many cables, I'm not saying anything bad about it. Viva had sent me an integrated, nice sounding integrated, but the connectors were recessed inside. And while it looked cool, for somebody like me, it's kind of a pain in the butt when you're leaning over to get stuff in and out. And then I look at something like
mhm,
your amp, and it was so easy to hook up this and access the speaker cables. There's plenty of room for the binding posts. The RCAs aren't spec'd too closely together where I can't use bigger, thicker cables on it. And then your manual went into phenomenal detail on the variety of settings that explained how it would affect the sound, but in a language that everybody could understand. So my question is, did that kind of happen by accident? Did your experience with other gear make you kind of realize,
mhm.
okay, I got to focus on that? How did that is a
Yeah,
bigger
for
win than I
sure.
think it sounds.
Yeah, for sure. As an audiophile, like, I plug and plug cables. I hate it when they're so close together. I hate it to death, right? You have these big cables and it just doesn't fit. So it was a big requirement from me. Like certain things were designed that way because of my experience, right? And also the manual too was written by me. So, it's a different approach when you're somebody who actually lives with gear all the time. So there's pros and cons to it. The amp is designed by an audiophile. That's the pro. So that, I really understand it. And there's many design choices that are made for audiophile. The downside to it also is that the amp is designed by an audiophile. Why? Because audiophiles, they don't care about cost. Just give me the best sound. And man, you should see the things my wife said, Thomas, are you trying to make money or you're just trying to build an amp? Like right now, I'm voicing this amp. I'm actually crying because my target price was here. And now I keep adding. Oh, it sounds better with this. And the next thing you know, I'm like, shit, I got to like double the price on it. So that's why there's pros and cons to being designed by an audiophile.
I think it's sort of like if you design your own house, you keep saying, well, I'll just add the granite countertops. Yeah. Well, I'll just add another carpet. And next thing you know, it's way more.
Exactly. Yeah, like for example, I tell my wife, look, this Jupiter capacitor, it's only $20, but it brings lushness to the mid-range. But then you start adding here and there, and that's where it gets out of control. Yeah,
it does. And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm actually making this power amp right now. Okay, it's a level up to TS-875, and at the final stage of voicing, I plug in this power cord, and I'm like, shit, this power cord really elevates the sound. You know what? Maybe I should just include the power cord. It's an aftermarket power cord into the product. So, nobody's going to go buy an aftermarket power cord, but that's the problem being an audiophile, right? Man, it's going to elevate the sound. The problem is that the power cord is a few $100. So what do? Do I absorb the cost? And anyway, you get where I'm going at. Yeah.
But I actually think that's an awesome example because we hear on, for as many people know, I'm not a big fan of forums because I think forums are just typically a place where people want to talk about and parrot stuff they don't know. They just want to argue. They're not there to really learn and help people. But one of the things you see on the forums often is, well, this stock $2 Amazon power cable is clearly good enough because if there was a way to make it better, the manufacturer would just include a better power cord. And I think you just hit the nail on the head for what a lot of us have been saying is, no, there's always cost constraints and everything you need to take into account because like you said, it's not just the power cord, then it's the better capacitor, and then it's the better, maybe the higher quality field knobs. And next thing you know, your amp's got to be $40,000.
Yeah, that's the downside to it, right? That's why I say it's not good for an audiophile to design an amp. Cost just gets out of control. So yeah, it's a discussion I have with my wife all the time. And power cord, I even thought about including a speaker cable in it. So you get the whole package. But then it's going to cost maybe $500 more to amp because that power cord, I'm telling you, is no joke. But then, it's not a fair advantage. But at the end of the day, I always tell people it's the end results that count. I don't care how you get there. Yep. The end result that counts, right? If your amp sounds better because you added, I don't know, fairy dust to it, so be it then,
I am a tube file. I am not an audiophile. How did you come across and decide which tube type you wanted to build your amps around?
Well, it's because KT80 and EL34 are the most common one. So that's why, and when I first started to work with Doge, they already have a Doge 10. They know how to build a proper one. And they told me, look, this is a stable design. So they can build it off that. Originally, I told them, look, I actually want KT150. I don't want a KT88 because you already have your brand Doge, right? I wanted something higher end. But because of COVID, that's where you have supply chain problems and so forth. And they said, it's going to take a while if you want the KT150. I say, okay, fine. We just build it off that. You get more soundstage from it, but I like KT88 and mid-range more. Now, having said that, now that COVID is over, now everything has stabilized. I'll be coming out with a 211 monoblock because Doge approached me and talked to me about it.
I bet that'll be amazing.
You know what the problem is? When Doge brought all those products out, I'm talking in general now, okay,
Yeah.
as a YouTuber. You see, I made a lot of videos that sold a lot of gear because of recommendations. I said this is good, so people just rush and buy it. But there's a but. When something goes wrong, those people email me and say, I bought it because of you. And sometimes I have to step in to help them out. I have to speak to the manufacturer. I say, can you do something about it, right? And this is what I realized. The problem is with all these cheap, good amp is that they don't price it correctly. They can make good amps, but they don't have business sense of, I need this certain amount of profit to give good customer service. And that's another reason why I started Galleon, because I make sure I give the best customer service possible. I never want to have that situation where, you leave somebody hanging. So Doge decide, they're no longer around because, for me, their business model didn't work. Sure, it was very good price, but look at after a few years, you can't afford to give good customer service too, right? So part of the reason, there are many reasons why they eventually just gave up and OEM it to me completely, is because it's different when you run a business and you need to run it carefully, so else you won't last long.
I think
So,
that's a really important point. And there's, I've often said there are products out there that I really like, that I think are incredible sounding, but I won't talk about them because I don't want to help promote a product if it doesn't have the good customer service behind it and it doesn't have the good people behind it. And that's why I tell people, you need to make sure that whatever you buy, you need to make sure that you've got a good relationship with a good dealer, that you've got a manufacturer and or distributor that's going to stand behind it. That those are things I think that a lot of people don't think about, that you're talking about, that are
mhm.
incredibly important.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until I started getting emails, and that's when I started realizing, oh, okay, there's more to that than when you buy an amp than just the sound alone. You have to think about the whole big picture, the experience also. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. So in terms of the 211 monoblocks, is there anything else you're thinking in the future of maybe you'd like to build someday, nice to have, or are you kind of focused on the 211s? Any dreams as to what other type gear you may build?
Mm, that's a good one because I do have a few things developed, and I'm worried to announce it because the second I announce it, I worry it affects my current products because everybody's going to go like, you know what, Thomas, I'm going to wait for that instead. I'm going
Yep.
to wait for the review, see which one's the better, and decide, right? For example, I'm just going to give one away. How's that?
Okay,
Okay.
I like that.
So a pair of mono blocks are coming based on the TS 875. Okay. A lot of people love the 875, but they wanted mono blocks. So what I did, yes, I did. I took the 875 and I split it into two bodies and I tripled the power supply on it.
Wow.
So but you still get the same 75 watts,
Right.
but I give you a 600-watt toroidal transformer as opposed to just a 200-watt per channel. And I'm going to up the power from 100 watts in 4 ohm to 125 in 4 ohm. So like these are just projects I'm working on that is supposed to hit the market, but as you know, the current economic situation,
Makes
I'm
that a
like,
little
what do I
difficult.
do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just parked there right now. Like, do I
Yeah.
ship it in? What do I do? Right?
Yeah.
So that's just one example. Some preamps are coming. I completely stopped my Class D project. It was ready. I mean, it was at the Montreal Auto Show. People were blown away by it. The current economic situation, you know what? Just put that on hold also. So I have some EL84 tube amps developed. Let's put them on hold also.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is what it is. And there's some nice tube preamp coming.
Well, and I think that it's interesting because I have here right now, trying to think, I have everything from a 16 or I think it's $2,000 now kit, 2A3 amp kit, up to the Aries Seurat. And the Airy Surratt, I've got the preamp, the DAC, all tube based, two monoblocks. And each monoblock takes one NOS 814 and one 845. And it only puts out 20 watts. And of course, that is my end all dream all. Having said that, I often get asked, and I'm wondering if you get asked the same thing, where people say, when you hear stuff that's expensive and so good, how can you listen and enjoy stuff that's less expensive? And I usually point to your Galleon as an example of something that, for me, it doesn't matter about the price. It's simply, does it put a smile on my face? And obviously your amp does, or I wouldn't be talking to you here today. And I think that it's easy for, just as, and there's a point to where I'm going with this, just as I think there are people who spend less money on gear that are quick to take an attitude towards more expensive gear not being worth it. I think that there's people who are willing to spend more money, and I've sent people to your amp who are willing to spend more money, and I say, no, you need to go listen to this, that you don't need to spend crazy amounts of money to get great sound, and you've proven that.
Yeah, and the point of diminishing return, right? Yeah. The thing is, a lot of budget amps these days are so good that if you're objective about it, you don't really need very expensive gear to really enjoy music, right? It's just that when you got a chance to listen to very high-end gear, okay, then you say, okay, I hear the difference here, I see the difference there. Sure, it's better, but you know, there are some periods of time where I just put away all my expensive stuff and I just listen to budget stuff, and I get the same amount of enjoyment as it. Of course, for example, it's funny, you see, I'm developing that monoblock, right, the A75. So I listen to it all the time. And I'm like, damn, this sounds very, very good. You know, I don't need more than this, especially with the preamp that's coming with it. And then I put back the TS-820 once in a while because I need to do some tests. I'm like, damn, no wonder it's double the price. All right? It's like, but that doesn't change the fact that I enjoy those whatever, you know, less expensive gear. So I tell people, because people ask me all the time, I like to buy this, I like to upgrade this. And I always ask them, why do you want to upgrade? I get this question all the time for my Galleon products. And sometimes I'll tell them, look, man, if you're enjoying it, just forget it. Just live with that. It's a never-ending journey. And sometimes it's not better, it's just different.
Yeah, I think that's very true. That it's funny because my wife, you know, I've got ADHD to the max. So for me, my channel is a good outlet for how I can continually try, you know, even the amps I have here. I don't listen to the amp once. I'm going to try 10 different combos of tubes and NOS tubes and this and that. And I find that exciting. And it's, the funny thing is that, to your point of, it's not necessarily better, it's different. My wife has always said that she will support me having so much gear and tubes come and go, so long as it's never another wife.
Good point. But now, having said that, I have to also be honest, right? There are times where I go listen to like multi-million-dollar systems. It's a different experience. There is, okay, I get it. Why this is $1 million? Nothing in my home, no matter what I do, can reproduce this experience. So let's not be, I don't want to be blind about it too, right? So I'm just saying, you know, just live within your means. Don't overstretch it. You know, there's so many good stuff out there. There's nothing to stress out about. So that's
and I love that you said that, because I was going to ask you, one of the goals. So I focus on three things: tubes, horn speakers, and tweaks. And for me, my number one motive, angle, mission, whatever you want to call it, is to get more people, firstly, listening to music and not specs, and second of all, obviously, into tube gear. And I was going to ask you, what's kind of some advice or some pitfalls or some tips that you'd give to newer people coming into tubes? But I think one of the most important things is what you just said, that just enjoy what you have if you like it. that you don't need to anybody who's coming in. And I have to remind myself that, and I think we have to remind audiophiles that if you like what you have, just enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Tube is interesting, right? Because tube does give something that solid state does not, and what Class D does not. And I think everyone should at least experience tube amp once in their life. And
A good
if you're
tube amp.
crazy like, yeah, if you're crazy like us, 300B, EL34, EL84, KT88, you need to try all of them to see which one is your preference, right? The truth is, a lot of these tube amps from China that are very budget, they're actually quite impressive. The only thing I'm afraid to take them to review anymore is just simply because I don't know about the measurements, I don't know the build quality and stuff like that. But if you put that away and you don't mind the risk, some of them are actually like, wow.
Yeah, if you think of it like a disposable purchase almost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And partially for that reason, I'm thinking to bring some affordable tube amps to market, meaning less than $1,000. The difference is that I put my name on it. That means that you don't have to worry if something goes wrong. That means I'll fully support you. Because I think everyone should give tube a try. The only downside is that there will be low power tube amps.
Yeah, I think that would be huge if people, if you do that and people know they've got a company like you and a person like you behind it. Guys, that is well worth spending more to get that backing, like we talked about with the customer service, somebody who's gone through it, somebody who makes sure that if there's a problem, they're there for you. Yeah. That, to me, would be a great gateway drug to get people to try tubes that may not typically have tried tubes and then move up and get more.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, I have certain friends that are only tubes. They cannot live without tubes, right? They have, been poisoned. That's how we call it in Chinese, right? You've been poisoned by tubes, so you cannot live without it. And but the entry to the tube world is not as expensive as before. It's just that there's a lot of maintenance with it. That's the only downside to tubes.
As the tube testers behind me and the tubes everywhere. In fact, I was just telling Thomas before I hit the record button that I just received a pair of tubes that failed pretty miserably on both my tube testers. So you're right. And I would also I do want to say this. People who watch my channel know I am all about NOS tubes, but there are very good quality current production tubes, and I get no money for saying this. I think the new Svein Horizon series, I think their Horizon series, I tried it in your amp, is a step up from, and I've tried it, their 845s, I've tried their 300Bs, is a clear step up from their previous version while not being any more money. The cryotones here, I like those. There are Electro Harmonix isn't bad. So I don't want people to feel when they see me going down the tube tester route and all this that, oh my God, I need to do that. Guys, you can make it easy and just call up Thomas and order new tubes, or just go to one of the plethora of online places and just get current production tubes and be totally happy.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, the cryotones are good, by the way. I have them sent to me for review.
Yeah.
It's just I'm so busy right now. Yeah.
Well, and that's a great example of another good company, people that are there to talk to you and help you, because they're in Texas.
Correct. Yep. You pay more for those tubes. You definitely pay a lot more, but it's good customer service and good products too.
So here's a question for you. I feel as though, and this is completely opinion based, there's no subjectivity to this, that over the years, and this is one of the things I liked about your amp, that over the years, that many manufacturers are searching more for that hi-fi sound, and in the attempt to go for that nth degree of clearness and transparency, they lose the soul of the music. And I think that tube companies have become, tube manufacturers are very guilty of that. They're trying to take the tube sound out of tube amps and make them so clean and so neutral. And you've walked a fine line of, your amp has great detail, but it doesn't lose the soul of tubes. How did you get there?
That was a challenge, man. Because when Doge first sent it to me, it's exactly as you say, right? Ultimate detail, ultimate clarity. it's great if you like, if that was a solid state amp and you like that kind of sound. And yeah, I spent so much time trying to get it to sound a little bit more tubeish, right? I don't want it to be vintage, but I want it to be, musical enough that, okay, this is a tube amp. And finally, the secret was I got help from the company Jupiter capacitors. And the secret was fine tuning the feedback as well as, well, for the TS120 SE that you have, it was customized capacitors. I tell them, give me something very smooth. You should see, I spent at least 10 grand on capacitors, just samples at my home, testing one by one.
And well, and thank you for bringing that up, because, here's one thing that sets me off. It sets, and I have to admit, this is something that triggers me, is when people say, well, if we add up the cost of the parts, that only costs such and such, so I don't know why they're selling it for so much more. And to your perfect example, you got to recoup the cost of those capacitors. You got to recoup the cost of trial and error, of all your previous demo models, of all your experimenting for new stuff. I don't think people understand what it goes into, either as a manufacturer, or I even had somebody the other day say, I was talking about one of my favorite speakers, Tobians, and they were saying, well, those are $40,000 speakers. That distributor has got plenty of margin on them. And what they don't realize is that by the time that distributor flies to Germany, for instance, to do the Munich show, pays for the shipping, pays for it's cost them $100,000+ just for one show. And I don't think that people in our industry appreciate all those expenses, difficulties, and challenges that make that imaginary on paper margin not what they think it is.
Yeah, like I completely understand when people think that it's a bit overpriced. It's just that once you're in business, once you actually see, shucks, I'm paying $50 an hour for this guy, storage, insurance, everything, that's where you go to, damn, I need the margin. And just for example, let's say the TS-A75, right? I market it as a giant killer and blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, best award of the year and so forth. I'm trying to develop an MK2. Just that alone, I built maybe 10 prototypes after that. Imagine each prototype, how much it costs. Yeah. And all of them fail. Yeah. All of them is sitting in the garbage on the side somewhere right now, because.
Well, and not even counting how much you got to put a price on all your time.
Yes, exactly. Right? Some days I would do 14 hours of listening. And because once I'm in it, I'm really in it, right?
Yeah.
And you do that for like a year, you should see how much I should get paid for doing that. I think I get paid $5 an hour at the time that I'm working at. Yeah, a lot of people don't. But you see, I do understand them. I get it, right? If you take it apart and you start counting the parts, how much the screw costs and so forth, I get it. But just to give you an idea, right? The Gallium TS-A20, okay, that's my made in Canada amp. It's $3,750 US. What that's you don't amazing. Know is that but you see that the TS-A75 is $1,500, right? But what you don't know is that TS-A75, that packaging box, cost me $2. Okay, the one that for the A20 that's made in Canada, it cost me $80.
Wow.
$80. It's because of the setup fee, right? You need to build the mold for it. Yep. Yes, later on it's about, I think, $10, $20 for each. But think about it, $80 for a box. And people don't realize that, right? It's a box, it's worth pennies. Yeah. So
which hat do you like better, manufacturer or YouTuber?
Oh, I like voicing the best.
Yeah.
Like that gives me energy. I spend days and days nonstop voicing, changing this, changing that. And that's why my YouTube channel has been quiet recently, because I spend so much time voicing and working on the business instead. Yeah. Because, that's the only, strength I have, right? When I bring a product out, it has to be solid else, man, I'm gonna get killed by all the YouTubers. This is garbage.
Those jerky YouTubers, man.
Yeah. They, people think, okay, because I'm a YouTuber, the other YouTubers will cut me some slack, right? It's the reverse, man. They're even more critical about my product
Interesting.
because they're worried that they seem like they do me a favor. So when they get my product behind the scene when we talk, I mean they don't give me a simple pass just because I'm a YouTuber. In fact, it's the reverse. So.
I think that's really interesting because I typically, and I'm sure the way I'm sure you had everybody in the world knocking over the door they wanted to get on your channel. For me, I do say no to a lot of people, but I spend a lot of energy trying to seek out the smaller boutique amps and gear that I want to talk about. And so I typically don't read the PR stuff when they talk to me beforehand. I'm like, don't tell me. I just want to receive it, burn it in, listen to it, make up my own mind. Then we'll talk afterwards. And I did wonder because there was a lot of buzz around your amp and the YouTubers loved it. And I got to be honest, I wondered if they were throwing you a bone, if they were saying, oh, he's one of us, we're going to say it's better than it really is. Because you got a lot of great reviews. And I can honestly say, having heard it and listened to it, it's 100% legit and earned. I mean, it is an excellent amp. I love the variable feedback. I'm a less feedback is better type of guy, but I think the way your auto bias feature, I think stuff like that is helping to take what was probably a niche tube amp and really making it easier for people to just enjoy the music and get the best sound possible.
Thank you. Yeah. And well, that also applies to my other products too, right? They get really scrutinized, man. So, and yeah, lucky so far. I'm lucky so far. Let's put it that way. I say that because you might think that just because I spend so much time and energy on it, I always get results. It's not true. There are many projects where I work, and as my friend said, look, if you're not going to wow anybody with this amp, just forget it. Just take the loss. All your money that you spend R&D, just throw it out. It's like speakers. I actually have a lot of them. They all go to the garbage because they don't wow people. So that's all part of running business.
I think that's a really good point because I often get asked why I don't try and monetize my channel and try and make this full time. And I always have the same answer. And it, in my mind, at least at this stage in my life, this is non-negotiable. Is that for me, on my videos, I'll say, this is what I hear. This is what I like. I don't care if you go and buy it. I don't care if you listen to me or not. You listen to it, you make up your own mind. And I have that flexibility because to me, my name and integrity is worth more than getting paid off. To your point, but I have that luxury of picking and choosing. For you, when you put your name on it, man, it's got to be 110%. And that was actually something I hadn't thought of until you said that.
Mm-hmm. I built my brand on that, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you get from Galleon. Okay, even though if you don't like it, for example, the speaker that I brought up, the transmission line, is dark sounding, right? It's smooth sounding, and it's not for everyone. But when you get it and you listen to it, at least you'll be able, if you're objective, you'll be able to recognize, okay, there is something special about it. So it's not just random building and just throwing it on the market. There's some thought put into it behind the scene, right? So, but let me ask you a question then. What do you do if you get something that is garbage, which I don't think is possible anymore today? Like
I got a speaker that was horrible. I got a speaker that was so bad, and it was $46,000. And I actually called my buddies, and it was the fourth time I had heard it. The fourth time I had heard it was in my house, and the first three times I heard it, were in shows, and it was not good. But I don't judge anything based off of what I hear at a show. I mean, it's not fair. And what I ended up doing was, and actually I did it there was a tube amp I received that I didn't like. I thought it sounded poor. So what I did is I focused instead on its features, who I think it would be good for, who I think the target market is. And I never said whether I liked the sound or not. I simply said what I heard, because I do believe that short of an amplifier blowing up or short of speakers failing to produce sound, if I don't like it, it's so personal and it's so subjective, and it's so, maybe my system just isn't the right synergy for it. So in that I tried to stay in that instance, I stayed completely objective. And then after that, only because I put so much time and effort into this, that I don't have the time to produce videos for stuff that I don't like. What I would do, what I did in those speakers, is I just said, look, they're just not for me. Let me just send them back to you. And because I don't want to be, I'm not here for cheap clicks. And no matter how many times I tried to say you need to listen to the speakers on your own, everybody would always, the takeaway would always be, Michael didn't like the speakers are bad. And I didn't want to do that to the speaker company.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. If you don't like a product, people just automatically assume that it's a bad product. In my case, that's why I don't, how to say, if I find something not to my taste, I simply just send it back.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what I do. Because if I don't start saying, okay, this is very good here, people may say, Thomas don't like it. I'll never look at it. That's not fair to the company too. For example, single driver speakers, right? It's really not my cup of tea. But I hear enough of them to recognize this is how they are. And, there's certain people who really enjoy it, and they should give it a try. But anyway, I'm starting to get around with single driver speakers now. I'm starting to appreciate them more and more. I guess it's like eating, I made a video called durian, right? This Chinese fruit. They smell like poo, but they're called the king of fruits. And people who love them to death. And I guess I'm starting to enjoy a little bit. So.
Well, and I think that, I think there's a couple of different models of YouTubers, and I'm not here to say which one is right or wrong. I do think there are people who like the controversy and the drama. I'm not here to go down that road, but I also want to be careful that I don't review just stuff that I love, because if I only say everything is fantastic, even though I may only choose 5 of the most fantastic things, people don't know about the other 15, then they're going to say, well, he loves everything he hears, so how can we value what he really likes? So here's kind of my very non-scientific rating scale. First of all, if somebody asks me, because my Facebook is huge, I spend so much time on that. That's 3+ million views a month. And I like that more than my YouTube, because I can talk and engage with people. I love that. And I'll give them my honest opinion on gear there if they ask me. But my very extremely technical, and as an engineer, I'm sure you'll appreciate this scale, is something's really crappy, something is just okay, something is pretty good, something is very, very good, and then there's that very small magic, that very small sliver of magic. And I try and break things down into those basic levels. I don't think I've ever said anything is the best, because I don't think there can be ever be the best.
Here's the interesting part. These days, if you don't say it's the best, it's almost like people are not interested anymore.
I agree with that.
Look at all the thumbnails, right? All the thumbnails, the best of the best. Those get a lot of click.
Yeah.
So it is. Yeah, it's kind of like, if you don't play the game that way, you don't get clicked. But if you play the game that way, it's almost like clickbait. So
I agree. And what's interesting is what I like about your channel is that you always stayed true to your high-end roots.
But I will say, okay, recently, those Class D amps that are very popular these days, $100, the Fossies and stuff like that.
A bazillion watts for $100.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever tried them though?
Yes.
Like, here's the thing. Okay, so this little Audios, they sent it to me, and I was looking down on it. But I have to say, everyone who comes to my home to listen to it had a big smile on their face. $100 can do this? What the hell? Is like, technology has improved, right? But here's the thing that's interesting. Not a single one of them say, hey, can I take it home so that I can try it?
That's really interesting.
Yeah, think about that for a second.
Well, and I'll
They're
go that.
super impressed by it.
I'm
They're
sorry, go
super
ahead.
impressed by it. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's like for $100, you cannot beat it. It's like the wow of the wow, wow, wow. But then, as I said, like my other stuff that I let them listen to, sometimes they'll say, you know what, let me try this and bring it home. And they're excited about it. So, yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting observation from my part.
What I found is, and I've listened to a lot of Class D from cheap to very expensive, and I always come away with the same feeling. I'm not saying it's right. This is just my personal feeling that Class D has gotten fantastic with addressing the tonality and the richness. It at the end of the day, it doesn't stir my soul emotionally.
I mean, my friends has a pair of Jeff Roland 925. They're Class D. They're Jeff Roland top of the line maybe 10 years ago. Those are like 50, 60 grand. And oh yeah, they stir my emotions, man. I tell you. I don't know, is it because it's 50 grand, that's why it stirs my emotions, or just because they sound good? I don't know, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I hear you. I get where you're going at. Have you ever tried Class D and Tube together? Tube preamp and the Class D amp?
That gets much closer in my mind. If you have a Class D amp and a tube preamp, that gets you much closer. And I know that there's some hybrids coming out now, integrateds, where it's a Class D amp section and a tube front end. And I think that stands the most potential in my mind.
You know, when the day when I bring out my Class D amp, I should send it to you and get your opinion on it.
I'd love to listen to it. I keep an open mind about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it was sent to me for review, and then I go like, no, I'm not going to review it. I'm going to put my name on it. Let's put it that way. It shocked me, that Class D. I'm like, what the hell is this? Anyway, it's on delay for at least a year now. So, yeah.
So this has been awesome. Is there anything that we haven't covered, or anything you want to bring up or talk about that we haven't talked about so far? We've covered a pretty wide variety of stuff.
Okay, so let me ask you then, why should someone choose a tube amp?
For me, even the most expensive solid state. And it was interesting because I went to the Dallas show a couple of weeks ago, and I walked away from the Dallas show more convinced than ever that the solid state still misses. And I'm going to preface this with a good tube amp versus, because there's some not good tube amps. When you compare it to a very good tube amp, I'm a big fan of single-ended. There is an emotional ebb and flow. There is a texture, a richness, a visceral sense to it that I find. So I listen two ways when I'm doing a review. First, I listen very analytically. Am I hearing this on that song? Am I hearing that on that song? And then I eventually just put down my notes and I listen subconsciously. And if my foot is subconsciously tapping, or if I'm subconsciously kind of bobbing the head, that to me is speaking on the emotional level that critical listening doesn't tell me.
Okay, so have you not experienced that with a solid state amp?
The best solid state that I've heard that has gotten me very close to that, my personal preference, is Constellation. I think the Constellation stuff is excellent for solid state. The other solid states that I've heard, no matter how much they cost or don't cost, they've gotten very close, but I'm missing that. And maybe it's because I love my horn speakers, and I think in many instances solid state doesn't play nice with horns as much as a tube would play with horns, that I'm missing those micro dynamics and that micro insight and just the slightest breathing and hint that while I can get very close with solid state, it doesn't bring me to that last 10th degree.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, you're the expert in tubes, man. I look at your tube amps and all the stuff you have. Like, I dream about having stuff like that, So,
well, I'll tell you, when you get tired of your 10 months of winter up there, come on down to Texas. I'd love to have you here. We'll spend the day rolling tubes and listening and having fun.
Oh, seriously, man, that'd be a blast. Imagine I do a tour down the States, right? I can
Oh,
go visit him, visit him, visit him. Because I get a
yes.
lot of invitation on top of that. I can be
Yeah.
gone for a month, man, like going
And we'll take you
around.
for real Texas barbecue.
Oh man, I heard that it's amazing.
Thomas, thank you so much.
All right.
It's been a pleasure, and I got to tell you, I personally want to say thank you for what you did as a YouTuber because I loved how you came across. I loved how you approached it, and it is something that for me showed me it was okay to just be real and just be yourself, and just have fun doing it.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And the truth is, I meet so many audiophiles. They're all down to earth.
Yeah.
Seriously. At the end of the day, people really don't care about the gear as much. You'll be very surprised. The high-end people, the entry level, like people like me and stuff like that. When we talk, we talk about music too, right?
I
It's
love, and
not
that's the
just
great
gear;
part
it's the
about the
music.
shows is you're talking to these people and you're
Mhm,
having these awesome conversations, and it
mhm,
just
mhm.
becomes having fun with a lot of like-minded people.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right,
Awesome.
Michael. Thank you very much. Then, all
Thank you,
right.
sir. Guys, I'm the Greek Audio Geek, and I approve of this message. Opa!